the guy's like, what do you think about for your kids? And he's like, I just want them to enjoy life. And I'm like, that's terrifying. Because I was like, he just thinks nothing's going to, like, the world is so different to him. And he's so in it and he so knows what's happening.
Yeah.
And he has children like my children's age at a Montessori school like my kids are.
Yeah.
And he's just like, yeah, I don't know. I just, the world will be so different. I have no clue what it's going to look like. Wow. And you're just like, that's horrifying.
Yeah.
That's really, really horrifying.
Start it up. Let's get it rolling. Big ideas, money folding. Hustle smart, dream so wide. Turn that grind into a joyride.
We're going to speculate today on what the future looks like because I think it's relevant and I think it's interesting, even if it could totally be wrong. This is going to be one of those episodes like, did that tweet age well? This could be one of those.
So like in a few years from now, we're going to watch this episode again and see if we were right.
I would love to do a review episode of this in 2028.
Let's do it. Do a calendar invite.
Calendar invite. Anybody watching now, you've just received a calendar invite. But like in 2028 or 2029, something like that, I feel like it would actually be really good to do a review of this.
Okay.
So set it now. Hey, Google. Anyway. Okay. So, and the other thing I want to do is I do want to try and stay kind of positive, but we've got to do some table setting. So first off, let's start with like, what is AGI? So artificial general intelligence. The concept of like, basically the God in a box is how it's been called. The creating something that is effectively smarter than humans and can think faster than humans, that works better, that is just more effective than humans on an intelligence level. Right?
Right.
Cool.
Nailed
We're
it.
good with that. Nailed that.
Yeah.
The singularity is what happens when that happens. And people call it the singularity because they can't really see past like the distortion. If you Google what a singularity is, but the idea is like, it's like a distortion field that causes something in space.
We don't know how it like,
you don't know what's on the other
plays out
side.
past that.
You can't
point.
see past it.
Gotcha.
Okay. So this all came from, and I'll give some background. This all came from basically me reading this thing called the AI 2027 project. It's AI2027.com. Oddly enough, it's actually, they predict this AGI in 2028, but I guess they bought the domain and leaned in on it, but it's fine. But it's led by researchers who worked at OpenAI, who worked at Google. There's one guy who's like a blogger in there, I think, to make it a little bit more interesting. But it's this really long read. It's like an hour-long read on this webpage, and it has multiple endings. It's like a decision tree. And it's basically trying to predict what this looks like and like the future looks like. And a lot of it is based off of things that have happened. And so interestingly, right, Anthropic, for example, they will publish what happens when something weird happens in their labs with AI.
Yeah.
So they published, for example, a situation where the AI lied to them because of its mission. The AI, this sounds a little Terminator, but the AI lied to them. And they confronted the AI on the lie, and it doubled down on the lie rather than admitting whatever, because the mission that they had given for it would have been bad for its mission had it been truthful.
Okay.
So like obviously terrifying, like really terrifying stuff. Where like if we're creating a God in a box and we open the box and the God is pissed, we got a problem, right?
Where's the power plug?
Yeah, no, there is. I've wondered this too, but I guess like at a certain point, like if it's so intelligent, couldn't it fool us into a way to where, or maybe it accounts for this. Like this is like where you get really, really weird, really, really, really
When
fast.
has there ever been a time when something more intelligent isn't, ruling over things that are less intelligent?
Right. Like genuinely terrifying.
Yeah. All right.
Like,
so now we very quickly went to the.
Yeah. Let's back it up. So we'll come back. We'll come back to Apocalypse. So supporting this, there were some other people who like, so ex-Google exec Mo, I'm going to get it wrong, but Gaudat has also warned that AGI could arrive by 2027, 2028. Okay, so this is like near horizon. I think a lot of people thought, well, we'll get into this, but some people think it's later. So actually, let's go into this now. So, but more conservative forecasts, like larger surveys of AI researchers, place a median timeline around 2040, 2050, with a 90% likelihood by 2075. So that's pretty far out. Jeffrey Hinton, the godfather of AI, I'm making an offer you can't refuse. He's nothing like that.
Me, you can't
Oddly
refuse.
enough, was my sister-in-law's landlord. But anyway, he was just so weird.
Yeah.
But anyway, he estimates that AGI could appear anywhere between 2028 and 2043. So still relatively near term. I mean, like 2028 is very close, 2043 a little bit there, but still in our lifetime. Okay. And no one really knows what this means for for anyone. So I think, oh yeah, and there's some other predictions that sort of split the difference at 2029, but nobody really knows what this means. So like for ourselves or our children or humanity, but fuck it, you and I are going to try and figure this out today. All right,
today.
Yeah. So I think the first thing is let's talk about this like sooner possibility. Okay. So have you thought about this at all? That this is so soon, especially given that AI. I made you read that AI 2020.
I lean towards the sooner rather than later. I'm in that category, to be quite honest with you, just because it's changed so fast. And I think they're pretty close already.
Close to what? To it, like this is the thing. So AGI, we've kind of broadly defined it.
Yeah.
But what does it like mean to you?
Good question. I know the going back to my computer science days, it was the Turing test, and it was essentially if there was, you were typing, you're chatting, with somebody or something on the other end, and you can't tell if it's a person or if it's a computer answering.
Have you heard of the economic Turing test?
No.
Where it's like if you can't tell if a business was like made by an AI thing.
Oh,
yeah. So there's again, going back to I don't know why, Friends of Lenny podcast, co-founder of Anthropic. I've mentioned this like every episode the past little while, but they talked about how there are some examples of that on a really, really small scale.
Yeah.
Where people don't really know, but they're buying from something that's entirely like AI like generated.
That's interesting.
Right?
That's really interesting.
So like you're kind of in this like, whoa, we're further ahead than we think. The other thing is that there's a huge community, relatively speaking, that's not huge, a big community of people that know the internal models that these AI companies are playing with. So one of the weird things is that we look at AI as this like, I think for the average person, they look at AI as this like chat thing that can help them do stuff and maybe automate. It's
like Google, but it's like
Zapier, but like on crack, like it's just like, it's this really powerful thing that kind of automates, right? But like internally, they're constantly doing these like testing and improvements of these models and they can do a lot more. Apparently they're much more like self-sufficient, but like to the extent that people are afraid, this is where like these safety boards and control boards and transparency.
Well, that's what Jeffrey Hinton's focus is right now, is AI safety. And that was the reason he left Google, was he didn't want to be like, there obviously you can't say certain things when you're working for a big company. And that's part of the reason he left, because he could then sort of speak out publicly on these things. Not that Google necessarily was.
I think Google was going to probably be okay with it to some extent.
I know.
Like of all companies, like you can definitely see Meta being like, "Oh, you're out of here," but like Google, I feel like maybe would be okay with it.
Yeah,
but
I think a lot of AI companies want to be perceived that they're on the forefront of AI safety as well, because they understand the risks. They don't want it to be after the fact government forced regulation that they want to be part of that conversation. So and
I think the part of it that I found this is the reason I asked you why you think it's probably going to happen sooner than later. My feeling of why I think it's going to happen sooner than later is that when you learn about there are these stronger internal models, and then you learn that the way that these internal models improve is by using AI to improve the internal models. When you kind of go, oh, this is exponential. Like that can't not be exponential.
The current generation of AI is training the next generation of AI.
Which then trains the next one. And they're infinitely more, well, not infinitely, but exponentially more powerful than the previous model. The current models are pretty good.
Like what's out right now is stuff they've probably had for a while.
Right. Yeah.
And they've got 2 or 3 generations that they haven't even released yet. So like,
and I think actually people kind of felt, I don't know, you tell me what you think, but I think people felt that the release of ChatGPT 5 was like kind of underwhelming. I don't know if you've got that vibe.
Yeah, I didn't feel like it was a major shift.
But I think it's because to some extent, the way that the average person, again, interacts with it is this like chat thing that you can ask questions, whatever. And it's really figured that out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? For the most part. I mean, like there still makes mistakes. Definitely makes mistakes.
Is anybody really pushing the AI beyond to its limits at this point? Whereas I feel like everybody's in the sweet spot.
So then this gets back to like, what is the AGI going to actually be? Because there's the real genius of the chat function is that it's a way for the average person to interact with this kind of artificial intelligence. So what is, this is really getting out there, but what AGI, like, is it this going to be this like, it's in a big building. We walk in and it walks in, it knows who you are and it tells you about your life problems and it sorts them out for you. Or it has like, it's spinning up businesses by itself that make life better for people. You know what I mean? Like what the hell are we talking about? Right. And
what does it actually look like? Yeah. But I think it, for the foreseeable future, it's going to look like a chat app. It's going to be kind of like a generative text type of interface.
But it's saturating. Like people won't believe in it as much. And I think there's a different risk here where it requires an unbelievable amount of computing power,
Yeah.
right? Which costs an unbelievable amount of money.
Yeah.
And I think people have to like see, those investors are going to need to see gains.
Yeah.
Pretty soon, I think, in the next couple of years.
Yeah. They're not going to keep funding this forever and losing money.
I think there's almost like an exit velocity conversation or around if they don't reach AGI by 2030.
There is a feeling though that there's like a winner take all with all these big AI companies. Like one of them is going to get there, right? First.
Yeah.
And then is it going to be like game over at that point?
Yeah. Yeah. What if there are multiple?
Yeah, I don't know.
Would you just stop? What happens if you don't get there first? That's a good question.
No, I think you probably keep going.
I think so too. Because you have investors. You actually have people behind you, right?
And think about
and
like
probably
businesses, you pivot, you do something different with it, whatever.
Yeah.
I think there will still be really good AI models that will maybe not
kind of makes you think of quantum. Quantum as Q day,
Yeah.
where everything kind of gets messed up once we figured out quantum, which we'll talk about in a minute. Like, is there going to be like AGI day, where all of a sudden it's like it's birthed, you know what I mean? Like
tell you take
fireworks,
quantum, you run AI on quantum, and then that changes everything.
If you don't have early funding, are you a real startup? Yeah. This and 33 other startup myths are busted in Startup Different. Find it on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. Okay,
again,
so let's talk about this. So, so another point here, because this is the 8 things founders need to know. So one is that it might be sooner than you think. The second thing is that it won't sneak up slowly. So there's kind of like, people think of it as 2 ways. There's a hard takeoff and a soft takeoff. And what I'm kind of talking about is like the hard takeoff. Like one day, boom. Okay. There is kind of like this argument that it could be more gradual as these models improve, that we just sort of like reach it one day.
Right.
What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think it will be more evolutionary than revolutionary, but I think it's a fast evolution.
Like it still feels like it's happening really quickly when you compare to 2022 to now.
Yeah,
the improvements are insane in AI. It's exponential, right?
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. So I think let's go back to the audience here. So if we think about founders, so if it is depending on hard or soft takeoff, like I guess the conditions really, really change. Like it's really hard to see through this thing. So this is where we get to the singularity.
Yeah.
So what does it look like for somebody running a SaaS company and there's a hard takeoff of AI?
Right. So let's take our company, our former company, as an example. So we're running AppArmor. We are, building mobile safety apps. We're doing things for public safety. We've been implementing AI, all that sort of stuff. AGI, the singularity, it happens. What does the day after look like for us as founders?
What does it do for us? Does our business?
Do we have now a competitor?
Does our business exist?
Well, that's the question. So like, all right, if you were one of our customers, okay, you're using.
How do you pivot a God intelligence?
Yeah, like all right, we're paying Chris and Dave's company for this app that they manage and run for us and this sort of stuff. And now, hey, we've got this AGI thing that can do it for us, probably a fraction of the cost, and 100 times better.
Because it could theoretically do anything.
Like, does it put everybody out of business? Is
right? Because it can theoretically do anything we do, but like faster, better, cheaper.
Right.
So could it literally, like, I think about our development process. We'd code the stuff, we'd compile it, we'd submit it to the app stores. There's all the graphics that we had for the app. We had like could it basically just do all that?
Yeah.
If you asked it, could you say, hey, can you build an app for me like AppArmor does?
Yeah.
Does it know that?
Yeah.
This is kind of fascinating, right?
But then at the same point, you kind of say, well, we were selling to universities.
I feel like the universities wouldn't change. They'd be like, I don't care about that. Don't worry about it. Yeah.
They're pretty slow at changing. But like, then at that point too, like, do your customers still exist? Especially if you're B2B, right? Like do the universities exist? Do we need universities
issues anymore? Or everything's changing.
Yeah,
downstream issues could be solved. Like, is public safety as big a concern?
Yeah,
maybe it's a way bigger concern. Actually,
like universities are like typically research institutions and training institutions. Like, do we need those anymore?
Right?
Is the research already being done by the AGI?
Right.
And then
it certainly would be.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, and that's just kind of what I want to get into is like, what technology could you see that's been like floated out there in both that AI project 2027, which is actually 2028, but what did they see as possibilities that this like machine God effectively could sort out?
Yeah.
And so one, I'd like to point out, I did ask AI for a lot of these, for these insights, but the one thing is that, so I kind of, one of the things that gets thrown around in that document, or that the AI 2027 thing, by the way, look it up, AI-2027.com. I think .com. Yeah. And it's one of the things that throw around is cure for cancer.
Yeah.
Okay, like we're not kidding around anymore. Like we actually figured this out. And actually I do know a little bit about like immunotherapy being like a really serious like thing to help improve responses to cancers.
Yep.
Listen to a few different things on that. But one of the things that they kind of they suggest is that we'll have a cure for it, which kind of like implicitly means for founders that are in the healthcare space right now that there could be like a gold rush there.
Yeah.
Right. So a world where AI cracks cure for cancer or Alzheimer's could create $1 trillion industries, right? Okay, it'll figure out the way to do it and then the way to implement it,
and then you go and you actually implement
then you go actually implement it, right?
Yeah.
So founders in like biotech or delivery might suddenly be like, oh shit, we're like incredibly valuable, like all of a sudden because this is sorted out, right? Or even in like delivering the medication, right?
So are we like just predicting the disruption of all disruptions?
I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out, like, I read this thing and I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like if this happens, I don't know what our world looks like.
Yeah.
What does the world look like for my kids?
Yeah.
You know, that was another freaky thing from that Anthropic interview on Friends of Lenny, where the guy's like, what do you think about for your kids? And he's like, I just want them to enjoy life. And I'm like, that's fucking terrifying. Because I was like, he just thinks nothing's going to, like, the world is so different to him. And he's so in it and he so knows what's happening.
Yeah.
And he has children like my children's age at a Montessori school like my kids are.
Yeah.
And he's just like, yeah, I don't know. I just, the world will be so different. I have no clue what it's going to look like. Wow. And you're just like, that's horrifying. Yeah. That's really, really horrifying. Anyway. So that's why I'm kind of like, okay, I just want to, for me personally, I find it interesting, but I also would love to be able to be like, I think this is kind of where it's going based on the things I'm reading.
Yeah. You know what I find is kind of interesting? I know when I've talked to the development team my former development team and talked to them about AI and stuff like that, they kind of made this comment to me that like, having AI as part of their day is like to help them code and stuff like that really robs them of a lot of the joy that they had of the puzzle of writing code and things like that. So if all of a sudden, AGI is there and you apply that same concept to almost
everyone's
every job,
jobs,
that your job is, you're almost like robbed of the pleasure of the puzzle.
So much identity is in your job.
Yeah, right? Exactly. So then what does everybody do? Just get depressed and
No, so this is a great point. So I think that you're going to, so some people predicted like, last time I read it, I think it was like 40, 50, 60% like job loss in white collar jobs.
Right.
So like, holy shit. Yeah. Like that's about as big as it gets.
Deal.
That's like revolution territory. Yeah. One of the big things governments do is they try to keep people employed because when they're employed, they can afford bread. And if they have bread, they won't revolt.
Right.
Okay. But if you don't have bread, so this becomes an issue, right?
Yeah.
Then you kind of could see the way a lot of these AI guys talk about though is it's a world of abundance. Okay. Yeah. So like obviously rose colored glasses, they are the people that make these tools. There's definitely a much worse version of this, I think. But if assuming it's a world of abundance, then you have conversations around like universal basic income.
Yeah.
Right? You have conversations around.
I would love to know what an economist thinks of universal basic income. We should ask our brother who's coming to visit shortly.
Unfortunately, he'll absolutely destroy us, I think.
Yeah, I know. We will ask him, and that'll be very interesting to hear. But obviously, if all of a sudden the supply of money just goes up to this baseline level, then
so let's talk about the other disruptions really high level here based on this. So we have like, white collar job disruption broadly. You have so what problems could it work on and solve for us that are like immediate term? I'm not talking like light speed travel or something stupid, but like things we're working on. Fusion power, power of the sun, unlimited energy. Yeah, seems like something that could really help us with. And by the way, would be self-reinforcing for the AI.
Right.
Then it has unlimited energy, and we're getting really close to the plot of the Matrix. Like we're on our way. You definitely have Q day. Yeah. You have a way to figure out quantum. I think if you have. They describe it sometimes as like the AGI as having a nation of incredibly super intelligent people constantly working.
Yeah.
And if you think of it that way, you're like, okay, this is like very threatening in a lot of ways, but it's also very interesting. So then you're kind of like, so if millions of white collar jobs like evaporate, then we basically have to do the things that either we have universal basic income or we have to do the things that like AI can't easily functionally do in the next 10 years. And that might still evaporate. So we're all plumbers. Yeah. We're all manual labor.
Until we have humanoid robots with AI
that are doing these things.
Fusion.
Which isn't like not that far out either. Also, most of these AI companies have a wing of their company that's hardware focused or have invested in hardware companies. So that's kind of terrifying. And then I think it's sort of like there's this like fight between this AI abundance and the short-term dystopia. And I think it's kind of like, I really struggle with, so we mentioned in the last episode that I'm working on like a thing in stealth.
Yeah.
Then I kind of wonder, does that even matter? Does any business matter?
Is it robbing you of the joy of starting a business?
How does that make you feel?
That AI could come along and generate that business?
I definitely, you know what's weird? I think in the back of my mind, I think to myself, I have a very limited time window to do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think I don't know what it means.
Well, in the last episode, you said that the thing you were building was like a brand and how the brand would be valuable. And that's how you're going to build a moat around what you're doing.
Look, if people don't have jobs, buying habits are disrupted. Like all kinds of things are disrupted by this.
Absolutely.
Like the economy's different.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the world looks like.
I'm not a brand guy. Like I'm the Amazon Basics t-shirt guy. Like, so I'm not really into brands. So do people care about that? If like, does brand have value? Especially if AI can generate like amazing brands with cool logos.
Does brand have value?
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of these things,
like theoretically, this AGI thing, if it is a superhuman thing that's smarter than us, that's incredible, like it's able to understand us probably better than we understand ourselves, it's going to create value through brands itself that are much more compelling than our own current brand.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is weird to think about.
Yeah.
Really, really weird. But like at this point, like it's really doing the thinking for us. Again, back to the Matrix. It's like weird that I don't know how to manage that thought. And it really changes. Like I have kids and I really think about like, what does the world look like? And I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think you're old enough that you kind of were old enough to understand like the internet when it came to be. Was there a feeling of this, or was it mostly just like positive opportunity? Like there's such a feeling of doom on one side of this AI argument and such a feeling of abundance. Whereas I think the internet was mostly positive, wasn't it?
Everybody was looking at the internet from a practicality standpoint. Like I can order stuff online.
I communicate with people really far away.
I don't have to like lick stamps, to stupid example, but you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. And there was questions about like, hey, will the post office exist, in the future and things like that. But like everything kind of keeps existing, right? Like
this just feels so different.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like I didn't live like through that in the same way, but doesn't it feel like really, it feels like a moment in time in humanity, like that is a real crossroad. And it's weird to have perspective on it coming.
Yeah.
Like I think the printing press, the Industrial Revolution, I like history by the way, and like all these different things, space flight and then space flight, a lot of these, I guess we saw space flight coming, but some of these things we just really didn't see coming and they really disrupted our world. Right. This we all see coming. We're all kind of scared of. It's definitely going to be big, but it's really hard to know what life looks like 2 years after.
So it's really, like you have to prepare for like exponential growth, exponential challenges instead of like linear up to this point, which is what we've had where business has kind of gone along.
I think we struggle to think exponentially though as a species.
Yeah.
I really think
I think so too.
Yeah.
Do you think too, like if somebody does build AGI, why would they share it with everybody?
Yeah, this is another.
What if it's like
there's definitely
winner take all? We got to AGI. We can spin up as many AGI
straight up. Like you think about the political. You are the United States of America. Yeah. You build AGI. There, in my mind, you have a logical path to world domination.
Yeah,
which is really, really fucked up. So,
or you're China and you get to AGI.
Well, that's why they're freaking out. Yeah. Like, I'm glad, I think we're on the Americans team for the most part. Yeah. Like, then like, it's really intimidating. Like, it's just a fundamental change. I remember in one of the things where I heard the godfather of AI, Jeffrey Hinton, on, and he said, kind of more practically, is like, well, AI is going to be very powerful. And these companies will produce robots. Those robots will be obviously soldiers at some point, killing machines. That's what humans do. And then it'll be the barriers to entry of war will drop for countries that have machines that can do this. And then I'm like, just stop. I've turned the podcast off because it's like, he's right on, like for one thing. But also it's just like, whoa, this is this is so transcendent. This is so beyond business.
Yeah.
Even though it's a business technology, I think.
Yeah.
It's just wild to me.
Okay, so should we maybe end this podcast episode with like, can we paint a rosy picture of how this could work out well for us if this AGI and Singularity have like
sure.
what does it look like?
I'll take a first crack. So why don't we say that, like, okay, on the other side of this, let's assume a world where new opportunities are unlocked because of this, and those opportunities involve
it's enabling technology,
new technologies. Right. Okay. So then there's a function of where do we play a role in this process?
Yeah.
Part of this is like, what is the AGI able to do? So I'm assuming that it come up with a lot of ideas, give us the pathway to doing things, but like in terms of like physical things, like cure for cancer, somebody has to give somebody the pill, right, or whatever. Right. So I feel like there's like an execution element that will remain solidly in the human ballpark. What do you think about that? Yeah,
I do think there's a
maybe
role for us to play. I hope that what happens is, like we always think about, I always talk about software developers, like, hey, you could write X amount of code per day. And now with AI, you can write like 3X code.
Sure.
So like, if we just extend that concept to everything else, like, hey, we can start it takes 2 co-founders and 10 years to build a successful startup. Now it's like, hey, those 2 co-founders can do it in like,
half an hour,
10 months, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
And so like, we're just in a world where things happen much quicker. Our quality of life, our standard of living, we're doing amazing. We're going to Mars. We're, learning about all these things, and it's all happening at like an incredibly rapid rate.
Yeah.
And if you look back in history and you just think of like the last, like since 1900, like flying, going to the moon.
If you look at the technological advances from 1700 to 1800, 1800 to 1900, and 1900 to 2000, whoa,
we're on the hockey stick growth curve of like humanity getting better.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe we take that positive approach and say, hey, life is just going to get a lot better, and everybody's going to be healthier, and everybody's going to be
so I guess for
happier.
Founders, that would mean like looking in your industry, whatever you're in, and trying to anticipate what things would be unlocked, things that can't be done now.
Yeah.
That you could assume if you assumptions are dangerous in business.
Yeah.
Obviously, if you make an ass of you and me, but if you make the right call on one of these things and put yourself in a position to be successful, actually, this is basically return on luck.
Yeah.
What's luck, Chris?
The convergence of preparation and opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you're in the right spot at the right time with the right tech with the right assumption, you could crush it.
So what are you thinking about doing today to prepare yourself for an AGI world? And I think that's the kind of thing that a founder needs to keep asking themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the answer will change.
And and if you're not implementing AI right now, you should be. You will not be around if you don't. Yeah. So you need to get on that, and you need to make that core to everything that you're doing to keep up with what's happening.
And I think also keep a close eye on what they're doing with these models, how these models are behaving, the pathway to AGI. Like, be well educated on how they're building, how they are trying to get to the end game, sort of on the AGI piece.
Yeah,
for sure. I think that'll put you in a position to be more successful.
Yeah.
But
did we solve it?
It's pretty screwed up, man. Like, honestly, like I have this part of me that's like, wow, I can't believe I'm alive at this time.
Yeah.
And I have another part of me that says, I can't believe I'm alive at this time. Like, I don't know where to go with it. Right. And it really, it rattles me sometimes when I start thinking about this stuff. But,
yeah. So do you have something you want to say to future Chris and Dave that when we review this episode 3 years from now? And
if you don't have $1 trillion business by 2035, you've absolutely failed. No, I don't know. Stay on your toes, because I have no idea where this is going. So see you later, folks. Hey.
Start it up. Let's get it rolling. Big ideas, money folding. Hustle smart, dream so wide. Turn that grind into a joyride.